recording start. And we are live in Zoom, I'm sorry, in LinkedIn, apologize. So hi Maris, and good morning for anybody joining us from the US region. Good afternoon, anybody in the Europe time zone, and good evening for those joining us from Asia. I'm Maris. I'm ex-banking executive of over 2 decades and turned a certified coach about 3 to 4 years ago. And I support my client to embrace authenticity so they can battle their executive presence, increase their confidence and effectiveness as a leader. Also a DEI advocate, where I served over 7 years in a renowned NPO in Singapore, where we drive the financial professionalism in the financial industry. And of course, I chair membership and mentoring pillar and for the over 7 years, working with many senior leaders in the industry. And so today, welcome to this series of authenticity and inclusivity. Authenticity actually have no gender, no color, religion, nationality, or neuro differences. It's simply who you are, of what I am, what you stand for, your organic and genuine self. As a mother of 2 neurodivergent children, my younger son is 19, and I might be one myself. I didn't want to go and test. The thing is, I've learned over the many years that authenticity is actually a challenge to many, especially those who sense they are different. And so for today, I'm really, really honored to invite our special guest. I'm not very good at pronouncing. Is it Yuka? Yeah.
Ekua.
To invite Ekua, our guest speaker here. She's a neurodivergent leader. And she actually came out only in July publicly as having dyslexia and dyscalculia. So dyslexia, we know, is a learning difficulty that primarily affects the skill involved in accurate and fluent word reading and spelling. And dyscalculia is actually quite new to me. I actually went to Google and found it's a more specific and persistent difficulties in understanding numbers, which can lead to diverse range of difficulties, anything to do with mathematics, which is I think we all take it for granted. But the thing is, despite all these challenges and difficulties, which you get to hear more in a very short moment, she's now actually focusing on a corporate training in helping to create more inclusivity workplace where all can thrive. And with that, I really want to pass the mic over. I know you guys are waiting to hear this too. So how has your journey actually been authentic?
Thank you, Iris, for the really warm welcome and fantastic introduction. So yeah, for me, being neurodivergent has been lifelong. And it's something that I've always sort of struggled with and not always been in full acceptance with. But I decided in the summer, as you said, to come out, to embrace my fullest self and to really, walk my talk. So one of the things that I'm really passionate about, helping people in the coaching work that I do, is about helping them to become their own cheerleader, helping them to be authentic, helping them to accept themselves, and helping them to have self-love for themselves. And I came to a realization that actually I wasn't doing what I was telling others so passionately to do. I had time out. I had to realize to myself that actually, there's something more that I could do about sharing who I am and my journey and my story. And so as it happens, in July, it's actually Disability Awareness Month. And, for the longest time, it's come past every year and I haven't really taken note of it. But, for some reason this year, it just struck a chord with me. And it made me realize that there was so much more that I could do being a neurodivergent individual. So I decided to come out, as you say, and tell everyone that I have dyslexia and dyscalculia, as you have already described. And I think that what I would say about both of those things, so dyslexia first, is that as much as, yes, it is very much about, communication and the understanding of things in that nature, it's a broader, neuro challenge, I say. It can affect things that aren't to do with actual communication per se. So things like memory is something that's not often spoken about, but it is something that is also connected to dyslexia, and as well as visualization and spatial awareness. So for example, to give it a real life context, one of the things that's always been on my list, because I have challenges in this area, is driving. So for me, judging distance is quite difficult, and also just generally I have a fear of going fast, but part of me not progressing fast in learning to drive is the fact that I'm neurodivergent, and that that spatial awareness, and also that ability to judge the distance, to be confident in what I'm seeing, and listening to the driving instructor is a challenge. Now, the second part is dyscalculia. And as Iris already said, it is about a severe difficulty with numbers. And put that into real life, it can be as simply as finding out a new phone number and reading it, and me seeing either numbers that aren't there, or incorrectly typing it in. So it means that I'm not processing what I'm seeing. So for some reason there is a disconnect with what I see and what was actually there. So don't be surprised if sometimes I dial the wrong number and it's not you that I'm meant to be speaking to.
Thank you for sharing. I mean, what I'm hearing there is kind of similarity between dyslexia and dyscalculia. One is, of course, more with reading and spelling, but one is number. But both are kind of not able to process and kind of connect them. So I can see, but it's like, and then kind of stop there. I think, yeah. I mean, all of us went to school and we have learning. When you have that learning difficulties and it's not kind of known, how do you kind of overcome that and recognize that you have that, even though it's a difficulties, but that is also part of who you are, your identity, and kind of that's your identity. How can you bring the identity come forward? Because I think when we are in school, when you can't spell, a teacher will take ruler. I don't know, maybe different generation now. I mean, all time we cannot spell. When I was young, the teacher will take ruler and smack you. Yeah, my time was like that. We do get it from a teacher. Sorry, I'm quite old now. So how do you actually manage to cope with that difference? I guess that is the main thing, right? Authenticity is about being who you are, whatever the challenge you have. But of course, today we have a little bit of extra anger. Not that you are just a person, but you have that challenges in your life to manage. Though, how do you actually step out and come out in that sense? Other than, I know this is who I am now, it's my journey and I want to share. But how do you really come out to embrace that authenticity, that the journey that you are in?
So first to talk about school, and then to talk about your second point. So school wasn't easy. And, as well as having these, being neurodivergent, when I was at school, there was a drive and a sort of sense that being right-handed was the way to write, and I'm actually left-handed, so that was a challenge. It was difficult for teachers to understand that left-handed is okay, and not to try to want to course correct me or to try to make me more neurotypical, and to put me into a way of thinking which they believed was right and correct. And one thing that I did say earlier on today in a live that I did was that there's actually no right, in my view anyway, there's no right or wrong way of thinking. There is just thinking. And I think that so often we are caught up in frameworks about that we must think in certain ways in order for it to be right. But what I would want us to think about and to ponder about is that, if we are getting the same result, but thinking differently, then there is no harm in that. There's nothing, we shouldn't stop that. In fact, we should encourage people that are thinking differently and that are coming at it from different angles and different perspectives. I think part of the problem that we find is that we are very in a society that is very much about, certain views and certain ways of doing things, and when people suggest different ways or different, they often come up against people not seeing the value in different thoughts and ideas and different ways to be coming to the same conclusion or same outcome, but they are just too fixated by the notion of this, there has to be a right and a wrong way to do it. And that's one thing that I want to say before I move on to the authentic journey and that part of it. And so part of that is understanding that I can never not be neurodivergent as much as I try. And that is something that is in the first instance sounds like simple and sounds almost like, why would you say that? Well, it's because, with something that is invisible, there's sometimes a feeling that you can hide it. And I spent a lot of time, especially when I wasn't really as accepting of who I am and who I want to be, and accepting that I am special, I am unique, and I don't need to try and to conform, was about accepting myself and all of myself, and accepting that the way that I think, the neuro, the way that my brain is wired, is actually something that I should not be trying to hide or be trying to try to not embrace or accept, because ultimately at the end of the day, all that happens is I'm fighting myself, and I'm the only person that loses in this battle. People, they don't see what's in my mind, obviously. All they see is what I'm doing, and what came to me as a realization is that a lot of the people don't really worry about that, actually. And sometimes it's our self-judgment of what people think about labels that we put on ourselves. And I think that there's a couple of things to say in this space, is that I'm not going to pretend that there is no stigma or there is no judgment about being neurodiverse or even having a mental health condition. But what I want to say is that it's a many-edged sword about disclosure. And I think that we have to be mindful and considerate about where disclosure serves us and where it doesn't. And for me, I think that there is power in disclosure if you're in the right conditions, if you're in the right kind of organization, in the right kind of spaces, in the right kind of communities. And like I say, you have to protect yourself, and you have to know that you coming to terms with you is an ongoing journey, and that it never stops. But once you come to a place where you're not trying to fundamentally deny who you are, then that growth and that continual evolution of being who you are is easier. And actually what you find is people really take to you more, and actually you find that they are really interested and compassionate about who it is who you are, what you're doing, and how that actually your perspective is valued and helpful in us all trying to journey towards our own self-acceptance, whether we are neurodivergent or non-neurodivergent, because actually the journey of self-acceptance, I think, for everybody is continual.
Right, thank you. Okay. There's lots you have shared there, so I'm going just to pick up the few points. And I think the very first thing that you mentioned was no right or no wrong, because you say you're left-hander. And of course, when we go to school, we are all learn to write and pick up the pen and whatever, our pencil, right? We are writing on our right hand. And next thing is the book that we are given are all right-hander based. I mean, not just book in school. Actually, all the doors you go to, wherever you go, is all right hand. Everything in life is right-hander based. So I'm right-hander, so I'm quite blessed. I never have this one like, oh, left-hander, whatever. So everything is right-hander. Even the book that you open to write is right-hander. Even the book that you open up to read is on right-hander base. So everything is right-hander. Even I can tell you something. Those who are Chinese will know that because I'm born and grown up in Singapore, right? So the Chinese language is a characters by itself. So it's supposed to go from left down to left right like that. But because of the English way of doing, they change it to become, so you change it as well. So it's a bit funny. So we get used to it. So our environment is about, I love what you say, so caught up in our framework about things have to be done in certain way, in certain manner. And if it's not done in this particular way, it's all wrong, and it's still wrong. And I can really see that. I brought up my kids in Singapore. And that's when I found my eldest son. At the point of time, he has a few conditions. He don't have dyslexia, he don't have he doesn't have but he has language learning difficulties, he has ADHD, he has sensories, and he's also suspected of exposure. That's my eldest one. I haven't got to my second one yet. A lot of challenges, a lot of difficulties, a lot of name calling at home from my own families. It was really, really difficult, and people don't understand. But so it's about, and I love what you say about it's no right, no wrong. And one of the words that came out very strong for me was acceptance. Is kind of coming to terms. I'm a neurodivergent, that's not going to change, it's just who I am. And coming to terms and knowing that your brain is wired differently from the neurotypical. And when they're different, what does that mean? And another word came so strong to me is like, if you don't accept it, what happened is you're just fighting yourself at the end of the day, because no one really see what's going on. They only see what's there. When you say that, my heart was really heavy, because I can see that so much in my younger son, fighting for like so many years of his life. He's still fighting for that identity, because he senses different, but yet he cannot come to terms that he's being different. So I feel that the power is the acceptance. When we accept when we are, that judgment kind of go off. Because our society, go back to your first point, right? It's about that framework, about right or wrong. So there's a judgment for self and judgment for others. But when we stop judging ourselves, people take to you and be more compassionate. I thought that was so beautiful. Yeah. My phone, my time, just thinking that, the thing is how the acceptance is important, but how can that evolving, because and it's a journey that we are on. It's not like, okay, I'm authentic, this is me, that's it, done. It's not that. It's really about that awareness, that recognition, and give yourself time to come to that, and that mindfulness. But that revolving cell, how does that revolve?
So I think with that, we have to know that we have to continually work on yourself. And so for me, the evolving self is about continually, learning and understanding, who I am, and daily taking steps to make sure that I don't fight myself, so that I recognize that, I can't change this, like I'm neurodivergent, but what I can do is I can be compassionate to myself. I can share my story. I can, put myself out there. I can do many things. And going forward with that mindset of opportunity, that can mindset, that solutions mindset, but also that understanding that, people don't know about these things. So by educating, and also learning for myself, because as I said, I don't know about all the conditions, but I'm learning myself about ADHD and autism and all other conditions that are out there. And for me, that's really exciting, because I get to understand more about people. I get to be more empathetic and less judgmental. And what I think is really beautiful about that is that enables us to be able to, create a better and deeper sense of self that is more compassionate for humans at all levels. And what I want to say is actually, being human is universal. And I think what we get bogged down by is labels and labels and labels and labels. But actually, at the end of the day, we have the same human needs. We want to be loved, we want to be valued, we want our opinions to be heard, and we want people to appreciate us, and we want people to connect with us. And I think part of that is, again, as I said, accepting who we are, but also working daily to be better at being who we can be.
Thank you for saying this. I love what you say. At the end of the day, this is a human universal, where we all have the needs that to be loved, to be valued, to be heard, to be appreciated, to be connected. Even people who are exposure, exposure are known to be not very good in that social setting. They kind of like don't know how to be there, and they feel awkward, they feel discomfort, and they don't really look at you in the eyes when you speak to them. They can't look at you, they look there, they look elsewhere, they can't really look at you, and that conversation is if you are experienced enough, you can tell the conversation is off. That means that they will talk, but they are not talking to you, they're just talking. And I can definitely see and hear and feel what you say about that connected. They also want to be connected. It's just that they are not neurotypical. They don't know how to be neurotypical. And some of them try too hard to be neurotypical. Yeah. And with that, right, I mean, what I'm hearing is, even though you are different because of the neurodivergence, but when you kind of come out of that, you have that self that evolve, you're being compassionate and recognize that you still have lots of skills and ability to do lots of things, which is very true. Just like don't keep comparing to the neurotypical, because you're different skill set, different strengths and brilliance of the neurodivergent people. And I'm quite indulged to say, since we have 10 minutes more, talk a little bit about what do you see the strength and the brilliance of the neurodiverse people?
Yeah, so what I think is optimistic, as you said, is the strengths. And for me, it's seeing the bigger picture. You know, it's being able to connect things that seem you know, random, but actually are with different layers actually connected. You know, being able to with ADHD, actually hyper focus. A lot of people think that they can't actually focus, but actually when they are passionate, when they're excited about your problem, they can be so laser focused. It's hard to stop them working on the thing, which again is also a problem, because they need to actually look after themselves, and they need to be reminded to eat, to actually work on other things that aren't as exciting for them. But these are some of the things, the creativity. In fact, a lot of people with dyslexia are known to be people persons, you know, people who are friendly, people who get on with people, people who are able to communicate and to be ambassadors, and people who are able to, you know, build networks, community, present. You know, there are so many different strengths, and it's all about, you know, giving people the space and the room to demonstrate them, but also to be able to see them and not to be stuck on the labels. Because actually, as I said, you know, we are more than the labels. And sometimes, you know, what is sad is, I think in mainstream you know, discourse, is that if you say that you have something, you're seen as a walking label. You know, you're not seen as human. You're seen as just, oh, that person has this condition and therefore they are less than, or they're less intelligent. But I think that we should move the conversation on, and to remind people that yes, we are different, but our difference doesn't make us incapable. It actually makes us far more superior and actually capable in other areas that, you know, a neurotypical person doesn't necessarily see. And it's at that point about, you know, being able to understand and see blind spots, and to recognize that, you know, everybody has bias, and that's okay. But I think what we need to be is curious. You know, we need to ask those questions. We need to, you know, be empathetic, and we need to see the value of having different perspectives, opinions, and ways of being, and not try to, as I said, be focused on it the right way. Because actually, if we're getting to the same goal, if we're even getting to better and superior you know, responses or outcomes, then we can see that definitely by having difference and definitely having people that are neurodivergent is the way forward, and it's definitely something to understand that it's not something that is a problem to be seen to just be put into a box. It's something to embrace, and it's something that is not as hard to really you know, support if you are human about it. Because as Aries has said, though, you know, we all want social connection, and some of these you know, neurodiverse issues are about, you know, not understanding necessarily or responding in neurotypical ways. But it doesn't mean that they don't want that connection. Everybody wants connection, and it's really being mindful of understanding how you can embrace people with their difference, and to allow them to you know, not mask, as Aries was saying, because that takes a lot of time and energy, and to be who they are authentically. And to know that they are valued as human beings.
I'm quite tempted, because I mean, you say you're doing corporate training in that your work now to embrace that inclusivity. So the thing is, when we work in, I mean, whether corporate or not, the big topic of leadership, how does that leadership come in? And especially when people are different and functional differently, how can the leader be all embracing of that difference, the good, the bad, the evolving, the failure and everything, right? So what is your view on that one?
So my view on that is that leadership has to show, a growth mindset, but also to accept that, if you accept that diversity and inclusion is what you want in your organization, then you have to accept, different ways of working. So just like I said, there's no right or wrong way to think. I think at the work level, this is one thing that can be so easily resolved, but I think a lot of people get hung up in the fact that they don't understand, these, issues. So, for example, sometimes, as you was describing, sensory issues are quite common for people with neurodiverse. And it's as simple as having quiet areas to work in your workplace, have the silent, allowing people to use noise cancelling headphones, and not, judging them for saying that they're disconnecting and they're not wanting to be social. It is not that they don't want to connect or be social. It is the fact that they need to control their environment so that they can be productive and so that they can get what they need done, and they can step out of that environment. But I think sometimes having that space in the workplace allows people to feel that they can work in a way that suits them, and also gets what is done, what needs to be done for the team. And I think just having that curious and open mindset and asking people about, how is it that you best like to work, and listening, and allowing there to be discussion, and for you to understand, like, how can you best design your workplace, or to provide opportunities for people to work together differently or in different ways, so that people with different working styles can not feel that they have to conform to a certain kind of standard. And I think the final thing I would say is that hybrid working has been really good for neurodiverse people, because controlling their environment is so key. Because if you have sensory difficulties, or you have other challenges around perhaps the way that you set up your IT and your equipment, being in control and having it set up exactly as you need it to be at home is really helpful. It helps you to be more productive. But I think that part of the problem is that people think that these people are hiding at home. They're not hiding at home. They're actually controlling their environment. They're actually, working in a way that allows them to be more productive, and allows them to engage with people in a way that works for them, and also allows people to get the best for them. So that is one thing that I would say.
Very interesting. You actually bring about a conversation that I have with a client, mindful at the time, with a client. She told me that she has a staff in her early 20s, 22, or maybe just graduate and haven't really worked. And so when they had their first call, the staff was like, they didn't turn on a video and everything. And she was like, I need to turn on a video. It's really like company policy. You work from home and we still don't see you, don't hear from her. And the staff told her that actually she's quite anxious about turning a video. I didn't have my makeup on and everything. And she was like, oh God, what am I going to do? I don't want to like put her under stress, but I need her to go on camera. So what I'm going to do? So it come to the, it bring across to me was, there was two parts here. One is you yourself need to know this is what I need, and be able to voice out that it's not that I don't want, but this is what I need. Tell you this is the thing. Give me a bit of time. I can come to the camera, but I need a bit of this. Voice out what you need. And then from the other end, you should also voice out, as a company, we want to be connected. So we don't see you in the office, but we still need to see you at home, not 24/7, but at least when we have a call, please come on the camera, we get to see you, because that is the connection we feel, and we need to feel that connection. So I feel it's about expectation. I mean, you state what you are. I like what you say, how you like to work. How do you like to design your workplace? Kind of out front, so you know what to expect. And then you also voice what you need and you want and things like that. Of course, within reason, you know what I mean? So they both come to a center point of agreement, rather than, oh, how can you be doing this? Why are you doing this? And it's like, oh, this is so difficult. Why can't you be understand? You're so such a horrible boss, whatever, kind of thing. But when we all come together and voice out, and I like what you say about the empathy, the curious, the embrace, right? When we come with the empathy, we are more willing to listen. When we come to the curious, we're more willing to find out more. And when we have that, the person is also more willing to share. And before we wrap up, may I ask you to, yeah, because the ending is, I kind of really see that there, where we are unique and we are different. How can we bring the authenticity into the pictures and yet be inclusive? I think I will end with that, unless there's questions. I don't see any questions, so we can go with that.
I think that, you know, we need to just be mindful that we are always learning and we're always growing, and to basically not be afraid to have difficult conversations. That's one thing I would say would help us to all be authentic. You know, having those conversations that make us uncomfortable, but allow people space to share what they are feeling, to share who they are, and to get that support that they need. Because I think at the end of the day, as I said, we are all human, but it is allowing those dynamics to play out in a way that you know, allows people to come forward and to share what it is that they need and not be afraid. And on the other hand, for people to who are managers or leaders, to ask questions of people and just to check in. And it's not about, you know, interrogating or making people disclose. It is simply just about being human, but also recognizing when you see that, you know, it may be that someone is showing signs that they may be neurodivergent, then, you know, how can you just be with empathy, support them?
Yeah, okay. Ask question, check in with that curiosity and the empathy. And then the person itself is really about that acceptance and revolving and knowing that, yeah, we shouldn't have that label on ourselves and start thinking that this is the way to go. When we don't go this way, we are whatever. I mean, yeah. Thank you so much. Well, we are 1 minute past, but we are still good. Thank you so much for today, for sharing your journey, and of course, the important concept of that authenticity, especially as in a neurodivergent identity. How do we want to evolve with that compassion, with the curiosity, with the no right, no wrong, not to fall into that trap, but to understand how our brain really wire, and yeah, and not judgmental. And of course, for the others, especially in office contact, to ask the questions, to check in, and having the right expectation and coming together in that point. That's where we are all different, and yet we come together in that circles of inclusivity.
Absolutely, I agree. Wow, thank you. It's been an amazing conversation, Aries. Woo!
All right then, and I'll see you around then. So anybody, if you have any more questions, you can always put in the comments, and we can always come back and answer your questions. And those who miss it, who have missed the sessions, just listen to the recording. And yeah, and there we are. And see you then.
See you.
Bye.